welcome to the Iditarod Daily Show. We're live from Anchorage at the Lakefront Hotel. The Iditarod has many points of symbolism, and we're going to talk about some of the great program that's going to be done on the Iditarod Trail this year. I've got with me John Baker, the Iditarod champ from Kotzebue, Alaska, and Katherine Keith, who's also running the Iditarod this year. So tell me about your program, ACT. I want to know all about it. What's going on? How have you started this thing rolling?
Well, we started the program actually right before the Alaska Federation of Natives met. We were in conjunction with the governor and the congressional delegation, an initiative to promote wellness throughout Alaska and what we could do and what the people themselves could do for wellness in Alaska. And from there we went on to consider Act on the Iditarod Trail. So we're looking forward to involving all of the communities.
So, John, we talked about this earlier. How did you get the idea? How did you decide you wanted to launch such an ambitious program?
Well, of course, growing up in Kotzebue, in a small town where everybody is close, there's issues, and so you know that the ideas have to come from within the communities being the areas of workplaces, the communities being the areas of small towns, neighborhoods. So you know that they have to come up with ideas, we have to come up with ideas that make all of us better, that help each other. So I just thought that we, as the Iditarod, owed to the communities to give back to the communities. And I thought, what better way than to encourage them to come up with wellness ideas.
So you came up with this notion of awareness, self-awareness. So Katherine, what's the nuts and bolts? How did you get the organization started? How did you get the governor's support?
Well, we didn't have to work too hard to get Governor Walker's support because he was really the driving force behind it. We just wanted to really help support him and be a voice to help carry this message out that as Alaskans, we really want to be empowered to really make a difference in our own lives and then in the lives of our community. And being dog mushers in the Iditarod, we do sort of have this responsibility to the communities that we go through and to the students and young people all throughout the state that they're looking to us as examples and role models. So
there's approximately 18 villages alone just along the Iditarod Trail. So what's going to happen? What's going to be going on with your organization during the race?
So Act on the Trail is doing a couple things. The first thing that's really exciting is that we've been fundraising. We want to be able to give up to $5,000 per community along the trail that's able to meet the criteria. And in order to do that, they need to form a youth leader program, a youth council, or a wellness coalition. And when they form these three groups, they're going to fill out an action plan for what they want to do to make a difference in their community, and then take some kind of action. When they do these things by April 30th, they'll be eligible to receive their incentive awards, which can go back for any kind of wellness activity that they want.
So give me some examples. So there's physical, emotional, medical awareness. So what are your ideas? What do you think is going to happen? What do you think communities are going to do?
We have lists and workbooks of all these great ideas for what the communities want to do. And we've partnered with ANTHC, who has fantastic programs, whether it's for tobacco cessation or general wellness, healthy communities. What we want communities to do is to be able to go to ANTHC, talk to them, and then help implement things in the community. So it could be anything like a mentoring program, it could be a talking circle, it could be something about a walking club. It really has to do with what the community wants. Some communities are being pretty optimistic, and they really want to address having safe houses in their community, or they want to help with a homeless situation. So there's a lot of different goals that communities have that they want to work on, and we really just leave it up to the community because they know what's best for their community, and we just are providing support. So when you go to our website, which is AlaskansChangingTogether.org, you can download a personal wellness plan, because we have about 10 or 12 different aspects of wellness, and really for within ourselves and within the community, you can really address any of these things. And So once communities kind of go through this, they get their incentive award, the next thing that they can do is compete for a $35,000 prize. And this is a statewide competition, so you don't have to be along the Iditarod Trail.
Amazing. Now, I know you explained your program today at the musher meeting, and there's a lot of mushers that said, count me in. I remember Hugh Neff said, I'm in. What do I need to do? So tell us how others can get involved in this project.
Great. Yeah. For the mushers, it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have bandanas on the dogs' necks with the logos, and we're asking mushers tonight at the banquet to go take a selfie in front of a little form that we'll have them fill out with their wellness tip. Just kind of things to learn about how mushers take care of themselves, in addition to taking care of the dogs. And we're also looking for mushers to be spokesmen, to really help us get the word out there and help encourage the communities to participate in the event.
You want to add anything, John?
Well, I think there's a lot of stories that each community has of where people can highlight and where people can give their story to make everybody better. And I think there's no better story than your own to share at some point also.
Well, thank you. I had cardiac surgery and I had lymphoma cancer all in the space of about 6 months. And I can say that if it wasn't for the supportive community and my family, it would have been very difficult. So I think your program is spot on. It hits on that our own health is our responsibility, our own well-being, but we're also responsible for our neighbors and our family. So I think your program has so many great intentions. I think it's going to be a great philosophical viewpoint.
Yeah, and I think that's really what we're trying to do here is reframe some of the challenges, because so often we go through in our own lives and we see our family and friends dealing with suicide or domestic violence or substance abuse, struggling with alcoholism, and we want to help so much, and you try to help, but then at the end of the day it's the individual that's going to have to step up and say, I'm ready to do something different. But where this whole campaign is about is really having a positive, solution-oriented options. So
viewers in villages other than the ones on the Iditarod Trail, they're not going to be contacted directly by your representatives. What can they do? How do they get involved?
Yep, they should go to our website and then look at the Hero X Prize, because that is a statewide competition and it's focused on creative and innovative, collaborative ways to develop positive protective factors within your community. And there's information about what those are and for what age groups, and you can get all the information you want at that website. But sign up, because it doesn't have to be anything that's so amazing or super involved or require a lot of money. It's really just connecting the dots with people in your community and doing something and working together as a team. And that's the biggest thing we do as mushers out there on the Iditarod, is get our dogs together as a team, moving in the same direction, and eventually, with luck, we make it to Nome.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun, because in a way you're running your own think tank, and the ideas and the innovations and the insights can be quite remarkable.
Yep, and that's what we're hoping at the end of this. By April 30th, we'll have throughout the state all of these amazing solutions that people have found for their community that are making a difference. And we're writing up these success stories. So on the trail, we're going to have both videographers and journalists out there capturing some of these champions along the trail in the community. So if you know anybody in a community, we would love to hear about it. And the contact information is on the website.
So you're well organized. I see you have the logos and everything.
Yeah.
So how long, just as backup, how long have you been working on the project?
October.
Wow. And you put it together this quickly.
Yeah, and we've had a great team, and again, it kind of takes a team to make things happen, but
yeah. Well, I can say just from my own observation that it's contagious, because already you have a big number of mushers engaged with the project, and they're going to go on the trail and do as well as they can to promote the idea.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Really appreciate that you had the time to come in. I know you're busy for the race start. John, Katherine, thanks again.
Thanks.
This is The Daily Show. Check us out. We're updating constantly. Welcome to the Daily Show. We're live from Anchorage. My name is Joe Runyan, co-host Danny Seavey, and we're here to interrogate what we think is a top 10 finisher, Nicholas Petit. Thanks for coming. I know you've got a lot of work. You're getting ready for dogs care, and you got the big banquet tonight. Mm-hmm. I've watched you the last couple of years. You've been hitting the top 10. What's going to send you deep inside the top 5?
Another year.
Another year?
Another year.
Well, last year your dogs were very young, right? Were they mostly yearlings last year?
Yeah, I had half yearlings. I had a 10-year-old on the team.
Okay.
And mismatched this
And by
that.
yearlings we mean almost 2 years old, right? They would have turned
18
2
months.
this last summer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those dogs are another year older. They have more experience.
Yep.
And is the 10-year-old still there?
10-year-olds, no, not there. A couple of those older ones, I let Ryan Reddington's running a couple of the 4-year-olds now, or 3-year-olds. And I got another set of yearlings.
So you think that those dogs are going to be better this year with that experience?
Well, the yearlings from last year that are 2-year-olds now are going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But I have another set of yearlings that are yearlings this year
So some
that
more
I
young
want to
ones.
get to know them so that we can beat your brother next year.
Okay. So you're still in phase 2 of the
Breeding
building
growth,
plan? Okay.
Okay, so that's explain. So what you're thinking is, in other words, you don't think those dogs are old enough to really race hard. Is that what you're saying?
Well, they might be old enough, but I'm not going to race hard because they're young.
Yeah.
So they could, and I don't want to just drop them so I can race the older ones because I just want to take them all to know them so that they all see Front Street and how we go pee on the fire hydrant.
So some kennels are big enough that they have their own farm systems. I mean,
Right.
Dallas and Mitch essentially have a puppy team that they send, but in your case, you're driving your own puppy team, and as they grow
Yeah.
up, then your team will get more competitive.
That's what it is.
So how well do you think they can do this year? What's your goal?
Same as last year, my goal is 20th or better, but I'm
did
not
pretty
going
good
to
then.
hold them.
Yeah, you've done better than expectations.
Well, the dogs did better than the expectations. And we're going to do the same type of race plan and separate ourselves from the rest of the dog teams so that we can do our own thing. And we'll see what happens when we pull into Nome, what place we're in.
So that race plan, last year you did very long runs. You alluded in Nome that you thought you could run the race eventually on almost just the mandatory rest. Are you still liking those long runs then?
Oh yeah, I love the long runs because early on in a 1,000-mile dog race, if your dogs are trained, they're not going to be that tired and they're not going to sleep that well when you have these barking dogs next to you. And most of my dogs are females, and I'm sure a couple of them are going to be in heat. So I better separate them from your brother's dog team.
You've had an interesting life, so tell us how you bounced around and how you came to settle on sled dogs, because you've been in the U.S., you've been in Europe. Tell us what happened with your life, how you arrived in sled dogs.
Well, long story short, got to Alaska, adopted a husky, lived in Girdwood, went skiing, and then went and traveled around the lower 48 and got a job with Billy Snodgrass, and I did some tours there. My first time ever on a dog sled. I had customers in the sled.
Billy Snodgrass lives in Montana.
Wyoming.
Wyoming.
Yeah. So then I moved to Alaska and I worked for Dario, a friend of mine in Girdwood. Anyway, I worked for Dario. And then Dario gave me Jim Lanier's number. And Jim Lanier's 76 years old this year, and he's still going. And the year I helped him, he had to have a hip replacement surgery. And he'd let me drive his dogs to Nome after I got qualified and got through all that process. And we got Rookie of the Year. And then Remy Reddington.
You were 6th place that year, right?
Rookie of the Year?
Yeah.
28.
Oh, okay, I'm getting my years messed up. You still had one of the fastest trajectories there to the top.
Yeah, that was 2 years later in 2013 with Ramey's dog team that I'd trained for a whole year the year before and got 29th with. I figured him out a little bit better and learned a little bit more about how to run dogs. A lot of it was by following Sim Smith around because that guy knows how to finish a dog race. And so I learned that you rest them, they go faster. so we rest at the end of the race a lot, and we move good. So then I started my own breeding program with Ramy Reddington dogs, along with a dog that I bought from Eric Rogers, who had Jeff King lines. And I mixed those dogs up, and now I got my own, and they're 1 and 2 year olds, and they're gonna win the Iditarod the next few years.
Was there any indication when you were younger, when you were a kid, that you were going to be a dog musher?
No,
Did you know anything about
I saw
sled
dog
dogs?
poop on the ground. I said disgusting. I had a cat.
Those are fighting words around here.
I had a couple dogs along the way too, but yeah.
So who are your leaders then? You mentioned that you had the 10-year-old, which is usually about as old as they can race competitively. A lot of dogs retire about that age. So are those 2-year-olds going to step up and be your lead dogs this year?
I have 3 dogs on my team that don't lead.
Okay. So
And
you're
all
pretty
the other
confident
ones,
there.
they do everything I say. I say park on the right, they go off to the right and park.
Well, you've long been known for spending a lot of time individually with your dogs. There's one year it seemed like you almost lived on the trail with your dog team. So do you think that plays into that?
I think it has a lot to do with it when, a lot of them get to sleep on the bed and this and that. I think spending time with your dogs is key.
For a cat person, you're doing pretty good with dogs. Then.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm a cat person.
Yeah, he's doing pretty good. 3-dog night.
Dogs poop outside, so that's nice.
Well, thanks for joining us, then,
My
Nick,
pleasure.
and
Yeah,
good
it was
luck
a
here.
pleasure, Nicholas. Yeah, good luck.
Thanks.
Well,
And don't expect me to be in the top 10. It might be a miracle, but it might happen. I don't know.
Danny Seavey and Joe Runyan. This is Iditarod live from the Lakefront Hotel in downtown Anchorage.
welcome to the Iditarod Daily Show. My name is Joe Runyan. This is my co-host Danny Seavey, and with us today, Scott Janssen. We're live from Anchorage. Scott, let's get right to the crux of the matter. You've gained a lot of notoriety, and you hit the newspapers today. Danny can kind of lead into this and explain what we're talking about.
I should have read the paper.
So we have a little bit of history here. So I felt I was qualified to read this one to you. There's a post today that's been kind of circulating around the news about the trail conditions, especially around the gorge and burn. And Craig Medred, our favorite writer here, wrote that somebody might want to outfit the mushing mortician.
This is the Anchorage Daily News.
Yes, this is Anchorage's Scott Janssen with a Bubble Boy suit for protection, given his past difficulties along this stretch of trail. So I didn't mean to embarrass you, but I wanted to get your reaction here. I know you're always good here. So,
well,
obviously we've had history on this stretch of trail. So, how you feeling? Of course, the last time we went down here was 2014, which we all have very bad memories of. So, how you feeling leading into this?
Well, I'm feeling excited about the whole thing, and but you know, with the bubble wrap thing, I've got body armor that I use snow machining, covers everything here.
So you actually are going to be wearing.
Yep, I'm putting it on in Rainy Pass.
Okay.
You know, granted we got a little bit more snow than we had in 2014.
Yeah.
But I got body armor. I got my hockey gloves.
Okay.
And broke my fingers a couple of years ago on the trail, so I got hockey gloves to be able to, you know, didn't fix it, but
yeah.
And I got a helmet because I hit the stump when you came along.
Yeah.
And then I got knee pads, and you know, I don't know if you can tell this by looking at me, but I'm an old guy, so got to have as much protection as I can out there.
So
I'm not going to get knocked out for something like that.
Yeah, so let's set this thing up, Scott. So Rainy Pass, for the viewers that don't know the exact trail, that's basically on top of the Alaska Range. And you're getting ready for the grand descent off the north shoulder of the Alaska Range, where you've had a few collisions.
Yeah,
where
a couple
number
of
of mushers had collisions.
Well, I like to think I'm a little bit better musher than the news has come out with. I mean, they've been very complimentary, but it's me getting hurt in different things.
Yeah.
So I brought duct tape, so if I break anything, I can tape it back together.
Yep.
And that being whether it be the sled or myself. But you know, I've had some bad luck on the trail, and
In that particular part.
In that particular part, and for me right now, I normally stop in Roan. I'm going through Roan. I'm going to Tin Creek because that's where I ended up breaking through the ice and breaking my foot.
You've spent time at Tin Creek before, so
Yep.
in Tin Creek, if I remember right.
So I'm camping there.
Yeah.
I'm going to cut the tree down that Hooper went around and broke his neckline, start a fire with that tree.
So to give a little bit of backstory here, in 2014, Scott was mushing. Actually, he made it down the gorge just fine, then camped in Rome, and left Roan with a fresh dog team, and proceeded into the Farewell Burn area. After bouncing off one of the mini trees, you actually gave yourself a concussion. I'm not sure if it was a tree or a rock.
It was, yeah, a big half stump.
This is one of each, okay. And then you continued on after that. You actually fixed your sled, continued on, and then came to a creek crossing. This is the Tin Creek, and got wrapped up around a tree, went to fix your lead dog, Hooper, who I sold him, by the way.
Yeah.
And then managed to slip and fall on the ice and then broke your ankle there? Was it broken
my
or
foot.
sprained? Yeah, your foot. Okay. So you had quite a bit of history. You ended up laying in the ice there for quite a while until Newton Marshall actually came along and spared you. And of course, unbeknownst to anybody, I was camped about 100 feet up the trail and just didn't know you were there. So I felt bad about it to this day.
But the other part of it is after when I hit the stump, I was knocked unconscious for, I don't know, a long time, more than an hour. And when I came to, I was a little disoriented. And when you came along, I mean, I'll never forget, you put your hands on my shoulders and looked me right in the eye. And you asked me, you don't know my dad's name? I'm like, yeah, it's Mitch Seavey. Everybody knows Mitch Seavey. But that's how disoriented I was at that point. And you even said, I'll follow behind you if you want. I said, no, go ahead, I'll catch you.
It was clear you'd had a rap on the head at that point.
Yeah.
So, well, assuming you get through all the scary parts unscathed, what are your mushing goals for this year?
Well, obviously my number one goal is to get my dogs to Nome.
Yep.
To get down Front Street. Whether I come down Front Street in the day or at night, I'll have sunglasses on so you can't see the tears of joy coming down my cheeks. But my goal is to get there.
Let's stop there for that. I don't think that's appreciated enough. I think every musher probably has that same sentiment sometime between White Mountain and Nome, and we're all tough guys, so you never hear anybody say that. But what is it about finishing? It's a pretty emotional deal, and I don't think it's actually getting to the finish line. I don't think it's you. It's not that you did it.
Right.
At least for me, it's always been much more the dogs. They did it. We got us here. Can you describe that a little bit?
Well, the feeling of coming in, and you watch your dogs when we come in, and you go up to your leaders, and they've just pulled you 1,000 miles down the trail through whatever conditions we go through. And I'll walk up to my leaders, I'll walk up to every dog in the team, and they'll be licking my face, and they'll be excited. And they don't know it's the end of the race. Doggone it, we can take off from here and go. But what they do, what they give back to us is, I believe, tenfold that what we give to them.
Easily.
And that's my biggest goal, is for my team to make it down Front Street. And it's nothing about me, it's all about the dogs getting down.
I've always stopped on the ice before I come up on the street. Once you get up there, it's the hoopla, but
Yep.
it's always kind of nice to stop and you have kind of a cool down, get to go see the dogs, period. And I think that's always my favorite moment of the race. But you're absolutely right I think my favorite part of this whole thing is the dogs don't know why we're doing this.
Yep.
They're not racing because they're going to try to win. They're not trying to get to Nome. Like I said, they don't even know that Nome's the end,
Yep,
right? Unless
exactly.
they've been there before, often, and for all they know, you're going to keep right on going.
Yep.
So what is it that makes those dogs continue to give you 100% all the time when you ask? I've never been able to explain that, but there's a humility and a service involved with that I think cannot help but move you. And I think that's why those of us that race are often so attached to those dogs. Anytime anybody gives you that much of themselves.
Yep.
And I think people that are, whether they're involved in a church organization or a volunteer organization, they've experienced that for yourself, that service can be one of the most powerful emotions, and dogs do that all the time for us.
Oh, and undoubtedly, yeah. And one of the things for me is, as a businessman, and I've been a team leader of people for all these years, and if you show these people how much you care about them in everything you do as a team leader, as a business owner, if you show the people that work with you, for you, however you want to word it, how much you care about them and what you do, they're going to do everything they can to make you and your business look good. And it's the same thing with a team of dogs. The love that we show for them and the things that we do for them. I mean, you guys have had the same thing where you're going down the trail and you might start going up a hill, and a couple of dogs might turn around and look at you because they're looking back to see if you're working too. And you better be working. And they see you're working, and doggone it, they're going to keep working even harder. But it's that whole team mentality. Yeah. Then there's the other thing about the trail where people have asked me before, where's the hardest part of the trail? People think I'm going to say the Dalzell Gorge or Buffalo Tunnels or the Farewell Burn. I say the hardest part of the trail is White Mountain, because it's like the best vacation you've ever been on. And I don't know if other folks are like me, but any vacation I'm on, those last couple of days are a little clouded because you know it's over.
Yep.
And it's coming to an end. And that's what White Mountain is like.
White Mountain,
it's
70
almost
miles
done.
from the finish.
Yeah, it's like by the time you get there, doggone it, I can walk the dogs to Nome if I have to.
I remember my rookie year, I was coming into the finish line, and I legitimately thinking, man, I wish I could just turn around and go back.
Yep.
I don't want this. Part of it is I didn't want it to end, but you're in such a zone where it's you and the dogs. You're not dealing with people. You don't have email or clutter or a job. It's just you and the dogs, and things are peaceful. There's solitude. And when you come into the finish line, they take your dogs, there's cameras and flash bulbs, and it's like, man, just get me out of here and back on the trail where I belong.
Oh yeah, and there's I know you guys have felt the same thing, the culture shock.
Yeah.
From being on the trail with the isolation with your buddies out there on the trail, your buddies being your dogs, and then all of a sudden you're surrounded by people, everything else, you come back to the real world. And typically after Iditarod, regardless of how my finish or not is, I always take about a week, and I'll jump on the snow machine. I go out and I do some stuff by myself, and just kind of get back into that isolation thing a little bit and ease myself back into what I normally do, is dealing with people.
Try to reacclimate.
So, Scott, if we want to reduplicate a mini-me, another Scott, tell us how you got into dog mush, and give us a little history of how a guy all of a sudden found himself unconscious in Dalzell.
Well, I moved to Alaska on June 21st, 1985. Started working at the funeral home I own now, Evergreen Memorial Chapel, and the first day at work, Jim Lanier was in there doing an autopsy. And back then we didn't have a medical examiner's office. The pathologist would come to the funeral home. So Jim and I are talking. I was helping him with the autopsy, and I asked him what he does for recreation up here. And he says, well, I like to go hunting and I mush dogs. And I said, people still do that? And we started talking. Our first daughter was born February 28th, 85. And as soon as Debbie and Angela came home from the hospital, I came down to the Iditarod and watched Jim take off. I can proudly say I have never missed a start of an Iditarod. This will be my 30th year, and even more proudly that this will be my 6th year starting in the race. But Paul Gebhardt, I was walking down the fence line, and as a funeral director, I have to advertise like any other business. Don't want to spread doom and gloom, so I like to do it in different ways. And so Paul Gebhardt, I'm walking down the side, I heard him talking to somebody, and he sounds like he's from Minnesota. I said, hey, excuse me, are you from Minnesota? Paul says, you betcha. So we started talking. I said, well, I'm looking at unique ways to advertise my funeral home. You looking for any sponsors? That's the key word to ask any musher.
Any musher, you're a sponsor.
And so, and so this is my 20th year sponsoring Paul Gebhardt. Over the next number of years, the next few years, we started becoming best of friends. And I was down there one time, and Paul says, you want to go mushing? And it was about 11:30 at night, and I said, sure. Am I going to ride in the sled or on the back? He said, you take 14 dogs, I'll take 14 dogs.
And of course, 14-dog team. And
yep, first time. And we took off, and we went 48 miles. We got back to his house about 6 o'clock in the morning, and I was hooked. And that's when I started easing back from the business. I'm still very involved in my business, but I took a young man in, and I made him the general manager of the firm. He's now my business partner, and now my son-in-law started dating my daughter about a year after I made him a business partner. He's now my son-in-law, which gives me the time to play with dogs. And I'll give you a little for instance with that. When my oldest daughter was 2.5 years old, people would ask her, what does your daddy do for a living? What does your daddy do for work? And Angela would go, he helps people when they're really sad. And now my 2.5-year-old granddaughter, Angela's daughter, Evelyn, you ask Evelyn, what does your grandpa do for a living? And she'll go, he plays with puppies.
It's probably a little easier to describe to kids.
Oh, yeah.
Scott, it's been a pleasure. I'm glad we caught you. I know you're really busy. You got 2 more days before you got to think about getting on the trail.
And away we go. And I'm going to be newsworthy this year with no injuries.
No bubble wrap.
There you go. No bubble wrap.
Okay.
Thank you much, guys.
Thank you.
This is Iditarod live from the Lakefront Hotel in Anchorage.
Bye.